Hey everyone, Callum from Cage Front here. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Now, in my latest video, if you haven't already checked it out, we have a new video segment on this channel, which is Fighter Spotlight. So in the last video, we went through everything KAI ASAKURA. We went through his career highlights, his career statistics, how good his striking is, how good his wrestling is, how good his grappling is, and we went through the key points for him coming into the UFC. So Fighter Spotlight is basically looking at fighters either outside of the organization or big fighters coming up through into the UFC and really seeing how they match up against the rest of the division, which is what this video is for. This is the second part of the Fighter Spotlight video where we are doing a tier list for KAI ASAKURA against the top 15 at flyweight. Now, the tier list that we do have, at A, we have the best matchup. So the best matchups he can have in the division where he can find the most success. In tier B, we have slight favorite. So not as easy going as A, but he is definitely more so the favorite in that matchup. C, middle of the road, we have evenly matched. So it means it could really be a 50-50 fight between KAI ASAKURA and the named fighter. D is a tough matchup. So that's obviously getting a bit tougher, looking more at him being more of a slight to a little bit bigger of an underdog. And then the last tier, tier E, is nightmare matchup. So this means it's a matchup where I am very confident that he will lose that matchup. So without further ado, let's get into KAI ASAKURA versus the top 15 flyweights. Now here we are with the Fighter Spotlight tier list. So as you can see on the screen, we have the best matchups, slight favorite, evenly matched, tough matchups, and of course nightmare matchups at the bottom in the red. So you can probably see a snippet of all the heads at the bottom of your screen. So we will be going through from 15 down to 1, obviously being Pantoja. So let's start off with number 15, and that is going to be Cody Durden. Now, Cody Durden, he is a Tasmanian devil of a bloody fighter. He is definitely getting better, especially with his striking at the moment. He's looking very, very good. I mean, he almost took out Bruno Silva. I mean, he destroyed Matt Schnell in his last fight. He's definitely just a tricky fighter to go up against. And I'm gonna say that Cody Durden is going to be in that slight favorite position. So he is going to be the underdog against KAI ASAKURA. So KAI ASAKURA is going to be a slight favorite against him. And that is because I believe that KAI ASAKURA does have that takedown defense to really just stifle Cody Durden's game. And that striking level in difference, KAI ASAKURA is a better striker. He is ultimately just better on the feet. Cody Durden is getting better, but he's just not as good. I think KAI ASAKURA, with the speed and just the accuracy and the timing on his strikes, it can get the advantage over Cody Durden, because if Bruno Silva is able to take Cody Durden out with the level of striking that KAI ASAKURA has, I would be more so confident that he would be able to, but I've only got him in slight favor in comparison to best matchups because that wrestling game from Cody Durden as well as his stamina is definitely there, and that's where I think Cody Durden can give him a run for his money, especially out of the gates with how much stamina and explosivity he does have. But I do think that KAI ASAKURA will get the better of him there. Now moving up to Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, I'm gonna have to go in evenly matched. I think just looking at Charles Johnson at the moment, I mean, he's on a 4-fight win streak in 2024. He is looking incredible. He has got the KO power threat for sure. He is extremely durable as well, which KAI ASAKURA I think will hesitate towards when it comes to that real power threat going against a guy like Charles Johnson, who is also very tall and long and has that physical threat as well as the momentum at the moment. I think that KAI ASAKURA will have to use grappling in that sense. He does have good like single leg trips, good double legs, but he doesn't use it all so often. And with that KO threat that Charles Johnson does have going up against KAI ASAKURA, who I really need to point out in this tier list, he's got pretty bad head movement and his strike defense is not the greatest, honestly. So I think when it comes to even the strike speed as well, I think they're kind of evenly matched in that sense. But KAI ASAKURA, obviously, he's got good experience on his side. I mean, he's fought guys like Kyoji Horiguchi and Manel Kape as well. And that's where I think that experience pulling through, I think that is what's going to pull through in terms of a pretty close and very competitive fight, which I honestly could see going either way. Now, Bruno Silva, I'm going to have to go in best matchups. I just don't think that Bruno Silva is advanced enough, to be honest. He's one of probably the weakest in the top 15. So it does honestly make sense as to why. I just think that KAI ASAKURA, with that striking, the strike speed, I mean, if Cody Durden is doing what he did against Bruno Silva, up to the point where Bruno Silva obviously chinned him, I just think that KAI ASAKURA is just too technical on the feet for him. He's just fought way better opposition than Bruno Silva has. He's got much more experience. And when Bruno Silva gets to the ground, because Bruno Silva's got a decent ground game, but I just don't think he has enough attacking offensive threat to actually do anything to KAI in either the grappling or the striking department. So I honestly do think that this is probably KAI's easiest matchup to take and actually take a win here. Now, Tagir Ulanbekov. Tagir, he's a tricky one because hasn't really got much of a KO threat, but he's a very tricky wrestler. Now, I would probably put him in slight favorite. He's probably close to evenly matched, to be honest. I'd probably put him, probably on the second rung. I just think that when it comes to that wrestling game, KAI does have good takedown defense. KAI is good defensively when it comes to grappling and wrestling, and that's where I think Tagir will have a bit of trouble, especially if it stays on the feet. The strike speed of KAI is what is going to be the issue. The strike speed and the strike accuracy from KAI, I honestly think that I can see KAI winning by probably like a 29-28 decision, with Tagir maybe getting like a first round out of there with the wrestling department. I think that's why it's not a best matchup, because Tagir, obviously being one of those Russian cats, he is good, definitely good, but no KO threat there on the feet. And I think the wrestling there just brings him from best matchups to slight favorite overall. Now, Tim Elliott, I feel like this would be a bit different if Tim was not so old. Now, I'm gonna put him in best matchups. I'm gonna put him behind Bruno Silva. He's probably the second easiest. Tim just doesn't have a real KO threat there. I mean, KAI is just faster than him, especially at this point in their careers now. Obviously, Elliott, very unorthodox, very tricky on the feet, very good unorthodox switch stance movement, which can be very tricky to deal with for KAI, that's for sure, because KAI is just like a natural orthodox based fighter. And Elliott, honestly, he would have to get this to the ground. He's got pretty decent wrestling, but KAI could, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if KAI could find an opportunity to actually submit Tim Elliott. I'm not gonna lie. I just think the big crux here is that Tim Elliott is just too old. KAI is on the younger side, and he is just so explosive in comparison to Tim Elliott. He's got the hand speed. I can honestly see him taking this by a pretty clear and decisive decision. Now, Manel Kape. This one's going to be interesting in the comment section with you guys. I think I'm going to put Manel in nightmare matchups. I think Manel, just proof in the pudding, Manel has fought KAI ASAKURA twice. He fought him in their first fight. It was a split decision, which KAI won, which arguably could go either way. Both of them did hurt each other, but this was at bantamweight. Now, looking at KAI ASAKURA's record, he's 16-3 at bantamweight weight, basically 130 pounds and over. He's about 16-3, and then at flyweight, he's 5-1. Now, this being at flyweight, gotta remember, KAI ASAKURA is taking a weight cut here, and he's never made championship weight. The lowest he's made is around 125.7 to 126 pounds. Now, Manel Kape, being the shorter, just being the natural stockier kind of fighter, Manel knocked him out at bantamweight. Manel is literally the more natural flyweight out of the two. He will have just the natural better weight cut than KAI ASAKURA. I just think the fact that this matchup could happen at flyweight puts me even further on Manel Kape's side to take KAI ASAKURA out. The problem is KAI ASAKURA with that weight cut, obviously draining his chin and possibly his cardio as well, against a guy like Manel Kape, who is shorter, who has very good striking. I just favor him so much more at flyweight, and we know that these guys are actually pretty evenly matched when it comes to that wrestling game, because there is footage on both of them literally fighting each other. So this one I'm actually more so confident in, especially at flyweight, that Kape is definitely a nightmare matchup for him. I think if this was at bantamweight, then I'd go honestly probably lower tough matchup, could even go to that evenly match, but that weight cut is definitely a challenge because KAI ASAKURA has not fought at flyweight since 2017, so keep that in mind. Now, Steve Erceg, he's probably going to be my first, I think he's going to be my first tough matchup. I think that he is tricky in terms of just being an overall well-rounded threat. Obviously, he did just get KO'd by Kai France, which has taken his stock down a bit, but stylistically, you got to be honest. I mean, he does have more of a physical presence. He's on more so of that taller side. He's got KO power, absolutely annihilated Matt Schnell, and the guy's got good grappling. BJJ black belt, that is his base, not even with his boxing either. He is definitely a threat in all kind of areas. I would probably put him lower in the tough matchups though. I think KAI ASAKURA definitely has the strike speed there to I'd say he probably slightly actually edges Steve Erceg when it comes to that, but that grappling transition between the two of them would definitely be an unknown, because obviously looking at Steve Erceg, BJJ black belt, he's very good on the ground, but getting it to the ground is something that we don't really know a whole lot of. And KAI ASAKURA has very good takedown defense. Now, if we keep that on the feet, it's realistically power versus speed, but that's where, honestly, you really got to look at it in terms of KAI ASAKURA. He has been chinned, and I mean, he just does not have great strike defense and obviously that head movement as well. And if you're going against someone that has that clinical boxing like Steve Erceg, and obviously in combination having that weight cut, that's where I think Steve Erceg is going to be more so trouble for him than KAI ASAKURA is going to be troubling Steve Erceg realistically here. So I'm going to put him lower in the tough matchups. Now, Asu Almabayev, this guy is tricky. He's got a lot of hype around him at the moment. He is very good wrestler, got very sneaky kicks as well. He is someone that he is very tricky. I mean, looking at him when it comes to even his strike speed, his wrestling transitions, he is going to be one of the ones that, just like Pantoja, one of the ones the most that is going to test KAI ASAKURA's ground game. He is going to be testing that wrestling like crazy. And Asu, just the way he's been looking at the moment, I think that he is going to be on the tougher matchup side. I think he is going to be a bit more tricky. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. He's that shorter, definitely that shorter fighter. I mean, he's 5'4", so he's on the lower side with like Kai France. Very short. But with him being such a dominant wrestler and just very good chain wrestler, I honestly think that he would have the ability to get KAI ASAKURA down. I think he would, and I think he is someone that would be able to take it by a decision. If for some reason he wasn't able to get KAI ASAKURA down, then I'd probably be putting it right up to, honestly, probably top or evenly matched, because Kai on the feet, he is better than Asu Almabayev, that is for sure. Asu is definitely underrated on the feet, but you can't really compare that to Kai and the striking pedigree he does have, especially with that boxing and that orthodox stance. So I'm going to put him in tough matchups, just looking at that dominant wrestling base that he does have. Now, Alex Perez, he is probably going to go in, I think he's going to go in B. I think he's closest to probably C to being that evenly matched, really just off that pure just competition, that pure quality of opposition that he has had in his career. I mean, Kai in this matchup, realistically, this is probably one of the main matchups where he's actually going to be looking for a submission in this one, because even Alex Perez lately, obviously before Tatsuro Taira, when he fought Matheus Nicolau, chinned him badly. So we know that Alex Perez does have that power against guys that don't have the greatest head movement, which KAI ASAKURA is similar to Matheus Nicolau in that sense. So that is where it is obviously difficult there, but Kai with the strike speed, the wrestling, I think he can counter Alex Perez's wrestling as well. I think that he just has the advantage in terms of finishing threat overall, more so than Alex Perez. That's where I think I'm more so leaning towards that slight favorite for KAI ASAKURA, but very close to that, evenly matched. Now, Tatsuro Taira obviously didn't go his way against Brandon Royval, but he is a beast. He is very, very, very good, and I think I'm probably gonna have to put him in the middle between Asu Almabayev and Steve Erceg, possibly above Asu, to be honest. I might put him above, actually, just because of that grappling. I mean, his grappling is fantastic. That transitional capability that he does have is very, very impressive, and I think he's got the ability to really draw out Kai. It takes someone that is just like an absolute athletic freak just everywhere, especially in terms of transitions, like Brandon Royval and like guys like Brandon Moreno, to really stifle Tatsuro Taira's game. And that's where I just don't think KAI ASAKURA has that in his locker. Kai, with the striking, he is better. He is better for sure, but being able to stop Taira when it comes to the ground game, especially with the weight cut in this matchup specifically, because of the weight cut and obviously the durability and the cardio issue that Kai may have, that's where I think Tatsuro Taira, with that wrestling and that transitional like complex base that he does have, I think that he can be a very tough matchup for KAI ASAKURA. Now, moving up to Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France, he is going to be honestly probably the worst matchup for KAI ASAKURA, because looking at the weight cut, which is going to affect the chin, which is going to affect the cardio of KAI ASAKURA, going against a guy that like Kai Kara France, who is a better striker than Manel Kape overall, I do believe. Very, very fast striking, amazing KO power. Obviously, we just saw what he did to Steve Erceg. I mean, and his takedown defense. I think Kai has the biggest threat for KAI ASAKURA on the feet when it comes to just that overall strike speed and just being able to really find his shots. Very good strike accuracy, good with his overhands. I mean, KAI ASAKURA has been caught with overhands a couple of times through RIZIN, and if Kai Kara France is catching you with those, you're going to sleep. I'm just going to be honest here, and I think if it comes to resorting to that ground game threat, KAI ASAKURA has got decent trips and takedowns, but he's no like Amir Albazi or no Alexandre Pantoja when it comes to that ground game. And we saw Amir Albazi versus Kai Kara France. Kai got robbed. And the wrestling, I mean, Amir did have a fairly tough time trying to get Kai Kara France down. And I mean, you even look at like Askar Askarov when he fought Kai Kara France, very hard to take him down. And if KAI ASAKURA does not have that in his locker, I think that's where he's going to be extremely susceptible, and not only susceptible to that, I think he's going to be very susceptible to Kai Kara France's leg kicks, because looking at KAI ASAKURA, when he fought Horiguchi, the leg kicks were there every time because his lead leg is just always very far out. And Kai Kara France, coming from City Kickboxing, very good striking style, especially with those kicks implemented. And I think he can chop down the striking, he can stuff KAI ASAKURA's takedowns as well. I think that he is just a bit of a nightmare, and I think Kai Kara France can knock KAI ASAKURA out. Now, Amir Albazi, he is tricky. I think I'm going to put him more in the evenly matched section. I just think similar to Asu Almabayev and Tatsuro Taira with that kind of wrestling base, I think that is where he does shoot up more. So I'd probably put him at the top of evenly matched. I think that he's probably about up there. just with obviously that wrestling base, the wrestling pedigree he does have, but Kai Asakura, he does have the defense there. I think Amir Albazi does have the ability to get him down, but the hand speed over Albazi is where I think that really ties it up. The striking, the strike speed, the strike accuracy of Kai Asakura on the feet with his pretty good takedown defense against Amir Albazi with that strong wrestling and being taken over by that striking. It's really wrestler versus striker in that one, and that's where I got to put it evenly matched. Obviously, whoever gets out of the gates first, in terms of if Kai Asakura is really piling on the shots well and getting that accuracy through in the first round, then he can definitely take it. But Amir Albazi, if he's taking Kai Asakura to the ground in the first round after a weight cut especially as well, he is going to drain him out and probably win a decision on that one. So that's where I think it is pretty evenly matched. Now, Brandon Moreno, the crybaby, he, honestly, I probably got to put him around here. I think, ooh, this is tricky. I'll probably put him in the middle. I think he's, well, we know Brandon Moreno, he is offensively threatening everywhere at flyweight. I mean, he's the guy that's actually been able to beat Deiveson Figueiredo. He has very dangerous looping long range weapons with his striking, especially the overhands. And against Kai Asakura, without that head movement, I mean, honestly, he could chin him. And then the ground game of Brandon Moreno, he is like a Tasmanian devil. He's just like a better Cody Durden in that sense. And I think that he can just really, especially with the transitional capability that he has, he can really cause issues for Kai Asakura when it comes to the ground, especially if he hurts Kai and then gets him to the ground. I think that that's where that, especially seeing Brandon Moreno's caliber of opposition that he's faced compared to Kai Asakura, he's going to show that he is just the better fighter. I think that he is going to be in that E spot, but I've just got him a little bit below Kai Kara-France just because of Kai's just clinical striking on the feet and just that viciousness with his KO power and being able to put Kai Asakura on the back foot. Now, second last, we have got Brandon Royval. Definitely another tricky one. Brandon Royval, I think I got to put at the top of tough matchups. He is very similar to Brandon Moreno in the sense of he's definitely got the, you know, just the dynamic style. He's got the very, very good striking. I mean, he's one of the lankiest bloody fighters in flyweight, which really causes unique issues, especially with him being able to reach certain positions that Kai Asakura might not be able to with the striking. And his wrestling and transitions on the ground. Another Tasmanian devil of a fighter. I mean, we saw what he did against Tatsuro Taira. The guy is amazing. Brandon Royval is very, very impressive. Only reason why I put him in the top of tough matchups and not in those nightmare matchups is because Royval doesn't have that real raw power that the other three do. I mean, maybe on the similar kind of line as Manel Kape, but Manel Kape has proof in the pudding. We know that he has beaten Kai Asakura almost basically twice. So that's where I'm going to be putting him in the top of those tough matchups. Now, last and obviously not least, we have Alexandre Pantoja, the fight that will be happening at UFC 310. Where should I put him? Best matchups? No, definitely not. Pantoja is definitely going to be a problem. He is definitely going to be a problem. I would probably have to put him probably here. I think just when it comes to, similar to Brandon Royval, he is just like better than Brandon Royval, and he's just a better fighter than Kai Asakura, but the power threat is not there per se from Pantoja where it is with Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara-France. That's why I just don't have him as higher, but Pantoja is a freak. I mean, the guy is so durable. He's never been taken out. He's taken crazy shots from fighters. I mean, like a left hook from Deiveson Figueiredo. If that's not taking him out, like, I don't see what Kai Asakura has in his locker that can really take Pantoja out. And just the offensive ground game. I mean, he is honestly one of the most creative ground game artists in terms of control in the whole entire UFC roster. That's why he's a champion. I mean, he's got willpower through the roof. He's got so much heart. He's an amazing fighter. And that's where I think, honestly, that in combination with the underrated striking he does have, I think that he is a nightmare matchup for him. Obviously, Kai, there is a possibility that he could catch Pantoja on an entry. There is definitely a chance there. It's definitely not impossible. No way. There's not the nightmare matchups aren't even impossible. It's just I'm more so on a very confident favorite that they could win. I don't think there's any like impossible fighters here, but Pantoja, just being the better fighter, better pedigree, offensive ground game, underrated striking as well. I think the guy is going to be able to get it done over KAI ASAKURA at UFC 310. But this is the tier list. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out the video on the screen. And please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.